So these are all my pattern pieces cut out. I've printed out the pattern. This is the trousers. And then we have our back, which we need to cut out on the fold. So I folded my fabric in half. And then I folded my other piece of fabric in half the wrong way, but it won't matter because that's for the lining. So you need a piece like that. You need 2 pieces for the trousers, like that. You've got your arms up there, and then you've got your front like that. Okay, so I've cut them all out. I've decided with the arms you can do your arms so that you've got a lining in your arms, but I think I've decided to just do it without the lining. So I've actually just put it on the fold, and I've just cut 2 rather than 4. It's entirely up to you whether you wish to do lining or not, but I've decided just to do the 4 today. Okay, so I've cut out all the pieces, and I made sure that when I had my lines, that when I put it on the paper, the fabric, the lines, the fabric was going with the pattern, going in the same direction of the line. So I didn't want to put it on that way, I wanted it all to go that way. And obviously when I did that one, I did it wrong, because they all should have been laying like that, and that's what the lines are there for, to show you which way your pattern should go. So if I was actually cutting that one, I should have put it that way round, but you're not going to see that at all, it's just the lining. So move those out the way. Okay, so the next thing I did was I took my piece of cardboard and I put it down onto my legs and my sleeves, and I folded over a 1/4 inch on that 1/4 inch line, and then I went up again and I folded over a 1/2 inch on that 1/2 inch line. Doesn't matter too much on the bottom, you can just do 2/4 inches if you want to. Okay, but on the top you need to have that 1/2 inch, because if you don't get that 1/2 inch you won't be able to thread your elastic through on the waist. So that's my legs, so I've got them all prepared and ready to go. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're just going to take a pin and place our front with the pattern facing downwards. So our back piece is going to be pattern facing up, front is going to be pattern facing down. We're just going to pop a little pin in the 2 shoulder seams there and there, and then we're going to do exactly the same there and there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're just going to stitch a little across, do a back stitch, and then straight across, and then another back stitch there, and we'll do the same on each piece. So I've just got my foot on, and I'm just going to do a few forward, a few back, then right across to the other side and a few back. There we go. So what I'm just going to, whilst I've got the machine all here and it's all ready to go, I'm going to do the hem. But when you do the hem, what you need to do is get it as close to the edge as you possibly can. So you can see I have got a bit of fabric just hanging over there. You want to keep it as close to the edge, because otherwise when your doll's foot goes in, you'll have that lip and you'll find it hard to get that to go underneath. So if you can keep that needle, right on the edge of your fabric, you'll get a much neater hem. And just do a few back stitches. And a few back stitches there, and as you can see it's right near and nice and close on the end of that fabric. And then we're going to do exactly the same as we did with the others with the arm. Okay, just going to keep it nice and close to that edge. A few back stitches, and then straight the way to the end. And a few back stitches. So this is the front of my bodice, here and here, and this will be the back of my bodice. Now this is the outside piece, and I've got the lining over there. Now what you need to do when you do this is you need to make sure that your arm piece is facing your fabric with the facing touching. So the two pieces which are going to be on the outside need to be touching each other. So what I'm going to do is take my pin, fold my fabric, my sleeve in half, and on that round side I'm going to put my pin right into the center. I'm going to open it up, and I want to put that pin directly on top of that seam there, okay? And then I'm going to pin those two bits together like that, okay? And then I'm going to take my pins and I'm going to work all the way around, put a good few pins in, and we'll get all those lines beautifully married up together. So when you get it around you, it will go together. It just always looks like there's way more material, but it will actually fit together. Okay, you'll just line them all up so that it all fits all. So here we are, we have our back and our two front pieces, and then we have our sleeves pinned into position. And then what we're going to do is just to take this piece, and we're going to place this piece on exactly the same, and we're going to pin this piece all the way around just like you did. So this is your lining. So you've got your front and back of that'll be your main outside pieces, which you'll see, and your sleeves, and you're going to fold those sleeves back inside, and then you're going to take your lining and you're going to, as you move along, you're going to slip your pin out just like that and place it back into there. Okay, so you're going to have 3 layers of fabric, all one on top of the other, just like that. And I prefer to do it like that then, rather than try and pin the 3 pieces all in one go, because it gets quite fiddly and you don't always get all 3 pieces of fabric lined up. So I find that this is the best way to do it. But if you want to do all 3 pieces of fabric together on your first time, that's fine as well. You do whatever you prefer. I just like to spend that extra minute or two just getting it absolutely straight. And I think that if you can spend the time getting things a little bit neater, it saves you all that unpicking. And I really hate unpicking, and you always tend to get a little mark when you've had to unpick. Okay, so then we're going to go, once you've got them all pinned and you've got all 3 layers all touching at the top like that, there we go, so all 3 layers are touching together at the top there. Then we're going to take it to the machine. We're going to do a back stitch on there, straight across, and then a little back stitch on there. We'll do that on both sides. Okay, so just go back over here now, take this piece of lining material, bring it across and pin that to that side before you go to the machine. Okay, so we're all ready to go to the machine. I've got them all pinned. What I need to do is, whilst I'm going along, I need to make sure that none of this bits underneath get pulled up under the fabric. So you might see me wiggling it around. I'm just going to drop it on and remove that first pin. I'm going to do a few stitches forward, but I want to keep that on that 1/4 inch line. And then I'm going to do a back stitch. And just come forward, alright? Just going to move that pin cushion there. Right, so as you go around, just make sure that you're not picking up any other pieces of fabric underneath, because you have got 3 layers there. And if you've noticed your fabric is starting to come off, you can always just pull it around a bit, just very gently. What you don't want to do is pull your fabric too hard so that you get threads coming out, because that will then make your fabric shorter on the length of what you've got to sew. because I've got my needle down, I can still lift my foot if I want to, and my fabric won't be able to come out because it's got that needle down on it. Just want to make sure that's all laying nicely underneath. There you go. Just make sure those last bits are all laying flat. There. And a back stitch, and do exactly the same on the other side. So the next thing we need to do is just to take our scissors and snip just up to that line. Don't snip over the line, just up to the line, and that will give us a nice turn. When we turn, it'll give us a nice curved edge. So just go all the way around both armholes from there, from that end to this end. Okay, just takes a minute and it gets it laying makes it lay lovely. So we'll just do that on both sides. So you should now have a piece which looks like this. What you're going to do next is you're going to make sure that that arm, that sleeve inside there, is pushed well back out of the way, and then you're going to take your fabric and you're going to pin all the way along here, around here, pushing that arm back out of the way. You're going to marry up those two seams, pin all the way across there, all the way around the inside of the neck, push that other sleeve out of the way, join those two seams and marry them up, and then go straight down to the bottom and finish pinning when you get down there. Okay, so here it is. So I've pinned all the way along, all the way around the neck, and all the way down the other side. We're going to start here. We're going to do a little back stitch, so all the way around, come to the end and finish it with a little back stitch. So I've done a few stitches on, back stitch, and I'm going to just keep it at that 1/4 of an inch and carry on sewing all the way around. If I were you, I would take it a little bit slower if you want to. Get it exactly laying as you want it. Take that slow around that corner. And you see how my needle sits down? Now when you get here, you can feel where that arm is, and you don't want to sew onto that. So just be very careful as you go around. Come around here, and I've just found that that arm is just moved a little bit, so you can put your finger inside. Look, hopefully you can see my finger there. Just push that arm so you make sure that it's not being stitched over, and then gently move your fabric just slowly, and it'll sit beautifully on that 1/4 of an inch seam. Do the same again with the other side, just making sure that that fabric is out of the way. If you do stitch over the fabric, don't worry too much, because you can just unpick that small piece and then sew back over where the hole is. Didn't do that very well. I'm gonna come back. Oh, just 1 minute. I'm going to take that off. Did you see what I did there? I cut that corner really badly. I'm just going to take that off. So if you do make a mistake like that, like I did there, you can just come back and unpick very carefully. Just went in too far. That's better. Pop it back under. Get your foot lined up again. Make sure you go over and do a couple of back stitches just where you knew that that was wrong, and then try and keep that foot on that piece. That was just me rushing. done that, so again, what we're going to do is just check that that's all moving freely, and you can check that by putting your finger inside and making sure that you can get your finger all the way around and that sleeve isn't inside there or isn't inside there before you try and pull it out the right way around. Now what you need to do again is take your scissors and do the snips all the way around again, just like we did before, on any curved edge. Okay, all the way around to here. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take our pieces of fabric, and we've snipped it all around, and we're going to take our arms and we're just going to gently pull our arms out of our fabric, and you'll find that not only your arms come through, but the other side of the fabric will come out as well. Now, just takes a little bit of work to get it out. Just pull it very gently, and you'll find the whole thing will come out. What you can use here, if you want to, is a pair of forceps to pull this out. You can use a knitting needle from the other side to push it through, or you could use a pair of tweezers to pull it out, or one of those things for making spaghetti straps. There you go. So just pull the whole of that out, just like that. There. So you've got that one out. Okay, and then you're just going to go back and do exactly the same on the other side. So this is what you should have when you've pulled it all out. Okay, this is your back, this is your front of your pajamas. So the next thing we're going to do is fold these two over. We're going to take our little sleeves, we're going to put a pin in this end, and we're going to put a pin in this end, like that. And then we're going to take it to the machine, and we're going to do a little back stitch there, stitch across, and a little back stitch there. And we're going to do that on both sides. So we should go to the machine and do that. Okay, making sure obviously that you've got that is going to be your outside edge. This is my lining material, so you don't actually have to use the same material. You can just use just maybe a plain white or something for your lining material. I just used it because I managed to get this piece of fabric quite cheaply, so I thought it was a big piece, so I thought, well, I might as well just use the whole thing. So there we go, so that's my sleeve pinned in. Okay, and I've got my front like that for a minute, so just going to stitch right across those two pieces. Okay, we're going to do a few back stitches. Like that. And we're going to go right to the other end. Do exactly the same on the other side. So to neaten this piece up here now, what you can do is just go along and run a zigzag stitch across there if you want to, or you could cut it with some pinking shears, but I'm not really going to bother because that's going to be inside. I'm just going to snip my end like that. I always like to do that, it just gives it a neater finish. And then we're going to turn that the right way around. So there's your little sleeve. Okay, so short sleeve. You could make this into a longer one, but so you've got your two little sleeves done and they're all laying lovely in there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take these pieces of fabric here and we're going to, can you see what they are? This is the front piece of fabric and it's got two pieces, so it's got an inside lining piece and an outside piece, and the same with the back. That's your lining and that's the other piece. And what we're going to do is we're going to push this arm out of the way. Now you can put a pin in that if you want to make sure you don't sew it. We're going to marry up those two seams there in the middle under the arm like that. We're going to pop a pin in that one there, and then we're going to take this long piece here and we're going to join that up there and pop a pin into it, another pin here, and then another pin here. I'm going to do exactly the same on that other side. There, so you've got a nice straight line. And we're just going to go to the machine, we're going to do a back stitch, and then we're going to sew all the way to the end. Okay, and you have to do that on this side, and then you'll take these pieces as well and do exactly the same on this side, and then come back. So here we go, on we go. Few stitches forward, few stitches back, and then wrap straight across. Keep it on that 1/4 inch. So, and then we'll do exactly the same on the other side. So here we have our pretty little pyjama top. It's really cute. And what we're going to do next is we're just going to take it and fold it like this. So you've got a long seam running. Then we're going to join there together. Just put my bit. We're just going to join it on this seam here, so those two seams are touching. I'm going to join it on this seam here so that those two seams are touching. And pin right up to that front piece. Okay. I did just take this to the iron and gave it a little press so I could see that it was laying okay. Just checked all the seams, made sure everything was stitched okay. There, and then what we're going to do is we're going to leave about a 2-inch gap in the middle at the back here. So just going to pop another couple of pins in there. And then we're going to come to there and we're going to do the same. Just going to leave a little hole. So I want to be able to pull it through and then hem that off. Okay, so we're just going to machine straight across, little back stitch here, straight across to here, little back stitch there, take my sewing machine off, sew here, little back stitch, and then right along to here, and then a little back stitch. Okay, sorry I didn't put the camera on, just doing that. I've done the back stitch there and then moved along. I'm just coming along here slowly, following it along on that 1/4 inch line. I'm just going to get to this needle, or this pin, sorry, and I'm going to do a few back stitches. Okay, and I'm going to lift this up, and I'm going to very carefully slide that along, pop it down again, take out my pin, and do a few back stitches, and then move all the way down to the end. And then just finish it with a few back stitches. There you go. Okay, so just lift that out. Snip my threads, both ends, and then I'll turn that the right way round. So I'm just going to pull that back out through now. Bit fiddly, but you can just pull it all back out. There we go. Right. And now you probably want to just take it to the iron and just give it a quick little press. Make sure everything's laying correctly. And then what you want to do, get that poked out there. I use the inside of the quick bit just to poke that out of there. That's it, get a nice shape out there, coming out there. Okay, so that one, that's laying lovely. That's all laying lovely. I think that one's out as well. On the other side, you might just want to poke it around a bit. Get that one, that corner to come out there. Oops. Probably better if you got something with a bit of a more of a blunt edge, but you can see that you've got that nice corner coming out on both sides there. And there you have your little jacket. Right, and what we're going to do here, once we've ironed this down and we've pressed it all, we've got that laying flat, is we're going to take a needle and thread and we're just going to stitch very carefully inside that line, and I'll come back and I'll show you how to do that later on. Okay, so that is our little jacket all finished up, apart from, it'd be really nice I think if we pop some Velcro on there. You can have a pop fastener or you can have a hook and eye. Entirely up to you. If you want to and if you're brave enough to have a go at putting a buttonhole in it, you can put a buttonhole in it. I'm going to pop a little button there and a little button there, but I'm not going to actually put buttonholes in because my children are only 3 and I think that they probably would find buttonholes a little bit difficult to do up, so I'm probably going to put Velcro on mine just the same way as we've done it before. So we'll do that in a minute. I just wanted to show you the trousers first before I do anything else. So we've got the 2 bottom pieces done, and then what we're going to do is we are going to, which is the bottom, this is the bottom piece. Yep, that's it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to sew up, no we're not, we're going to lay them together like this. So here are our 2 legs, our left leg and our right leg. And what we're going to do is we're going to place them together like that, okay? And we're going to sew from the top, even though we've got all over that top of that seam which we've pressed, we're going to sew it right up like that on that side, and then right down like that on that side. So I'm going to pin them together. You still need to keep those folds on that 1/4 inch because we will be using that, so don't iron those out. So we're just going to pop those over like that, there, and put pins in that side and do exactly the same on the other side, and then we're going to do a back stitch all the way up to the top and a little back stitch just to finish it off on both sides. So we're going to do a few stitches forward and then back stitch, and then come around keeping that foot on that 1/4 inch. Right up to the top. And do a few back stitches. And that's that one finished, and do exactly the same on the other side. So now this is the top of the fabric which we had, and we'd put our fold in with the iron, and we'd folded it into place, and what we're going to do is just run it around, making sure that that bottom piece there is not going under the foot, and we're just going to run around and keeping it as close to that edge as we can. We're going to go all the way around in a circle until we get back to where we've stitched. Just keep pushing that little bit of fabric underneath. Just do a back stitch there. There we go, and I'll just hold all that in position. And then we're going to take off those threads. Okay, so that will be your waistband, and then that is going to be your crotch of your trousers, like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to place our legs together. Okay, let's move the sewing machine so you can see. So next what we've got to do, so that was our waistband there, okay, around there. And those are the crotch we've already sewn. So all we're going to do now is pin all the way from this leg up to the crotch and then along and down to that other leg, and then we're just going to put some pins in, and then we're going to stitch all the way around. Okay, I just pop some pins in. So there we go, I've got my pins all the way along. So I'm just going to do back stitch, straight across, back stitch. Okay. It's caught on that pen a minute, sorry. And a back stitch, and then all the way around. Finish it off with a back stitch. Okay, and if you want to, you can just do a little snip. I just like to do a little snip with my scissors just here on the edge on both sides when I'm doing cuffs and trouser bottoms. Okay, and then you can just turn those the right way around. When you're doing your seam around the waistband, make sure you leave a small hole, just a small one, just big enough for your elastic and a pin to go into. So I always leave that at the back of the waistband. So we're going to thread our elastic through now. So I've just gone ahead and I've measured my doll's waist, and that's the piece of size of elastic I want for it, but I'm not going to cut it because I want to leave that on for a minute until after I've got it in and stitched in place. Okay, so I'm going to put a safety pin on the end. I'm going to take my safety pin, pop it through that hole we left, and go all the way around my trousers on the waistband. Just takes a few minutes to pop it through. You might find it harder when you get to that seam, because sometimes the seam is in the way. I usually find that one's going backwards and one's going forward, so it might catch your pin on it. Okay, if you don't have a safety pin, you can always use a hair clip. There we go, and just pull that through. Okay. And then once you've got it out, what you're going to do is go back and find where your line is on this side. So it's just there. So you're going to take this piece and this piece. Okay, and then you're just going to take them to the sewing machine. Put that one on top of that one. There we go. Have them together and then just stitch over the top a few times. So I've got it just here. I'm just going to stitch backwards and forwards a few times. Okay. There we go. Okay. I'll take his scissors and cut that off. Make sure you put that pin away so that you don't get stabbed or anybody else gets stabbed. And if you pull that into your trousers, you should have a nice band now, which is the right size. Okay, so that's your little trousers finished. They could just have a little press and they're all done. Ready. And then we're just going to pop a tiny bit of I'm going to pop up a tiny bit of velcros just here and just probably about here. So I've got a piece here. This is that lovely thin velcro. Can you see that? I can't make you can see that. So I'm going to put the velcro just on here like that, pop it on and just stitch it onto that top, and then we'll put the other piece onto the inside. Okay, just stitch that one straight on. I really don't like using the pins with it. It moves all over the place with the pins, so I'm just going to do it straight into there, just like that. Okay, get it in and put my needle down into the velcro like that. Stitch it up, and you can do a whole row of stitches all the way back down again. There you go, and that's it. That will do lovely. There you go, stitch beautifully on there. That one, and then the same with this side. And then just come across and pop your other piece on, making sure that that goes in the same position. So you want to marry those two pieces up and make sure that sits exactly over the top there, just to get it straight. And then grab that, take it over, pop your foot down. Where's this thread gone? And then we'll put our needle straight into the velcro before we actually start working. There's it now. Okay. And that should hold it nice and secure. Okay. So that's going to lay like that, and then that's going to sit like that on the top. Okay, and don't worry too much about that stitching, because we can have a button there, and then you can, if you want to, add another piece down of velcro, just the same as we've done it there, just down there. So here we have our little pajama top. It's all looking really pretty, and I'm going to put some buttons on, and I'm going to show you how to do this. We put the velcros on, and I did decide to put an extra piece of velcros at the bottom. So the buttons will just be for show. Okay, so we're going to stitch the buttons on using the sewing machine. So here is the button. I'm just going to place it roughly whereabouts where I want it, and I'm going to pop it under my needle, and then I'm going to drop my needle down just so that's just not touching it, and I'm going to put in, can you see my needle is slightly on the left side, so I'm going to find that hole on there, and I'm going to pop my needle into it like that, and I'm going to drop my foot. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to look at my stitch length. Okay, and now what you'll need to do is play around with it, watch as the needle comes up, and then as it goes back down again, if you keep just turn it with your hand, you want to make sure that that needle is going in that second hole. Okay, and you'll have to adjust your stitch length to make sure that needle goes into that second hole. So it should go into that one on that side, and then it should go into this one on this side. And of course it's trying to move forward, so you just want to hold it there for a second whilst you're doing this. Okay, so I'm just going to pop the camera down. Hopefully you'll be able to see this as it does it. Let's do it. Let's have a look. Let's get it right over by the foot. Hopefully you can see that. So I'm going to wiggle my foot around, wiggle that button around until I get it so that it's going into that hole. Not quite. Just takes a tiny bit of fiddling to get it right, and once you've got it right, you'll be able to put all 3 buttons in. So I would probably need to come along here now and just adjust my length, my stitch, my width of my stitch. This will give you a really small stitch, slightly bigger stitch, right up to a nice big stitch. Okay, so I'm going to just adjust that length, pop it down again so you can see, and then I'm going to drop my needle in to that hole. What you need to do as well is make sure that hole is horizontal. Okay, when it goes down, so I'm just put it so it's just over the top of the hole, get it in there, then bring it over, and it's going beautifully into that hole on the other side now. So just adjust those stitches until it's doing that on both sides. Okay, and then you can take your foot, your pedal, and press your pedal down, and you should get some beautiful stitches to hold your button in place. Okay, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Take that off and snip your threads, and you've got a lovely button held in place. You can put do exactly the same again now. That's all lined up for the stitches, the size of the stitches you want to put on. So you can put one on there and then one on the bottom here, and that will work really quickly. So if you've got a lot of buttons to sew on, it's really easy just to do that. It doesn't take, as you saw how quick it was to do. When I do the next one, which I shall do now, so you can see. Okay, I'll whip through the next one. You can see how quick it's going to do. Just get it lined up first, make sure that it's lined up. That's it. Pop it in. There you go. And make sure it's going in both holes, because sometimes if it's not horizontal, it won't quite go in the hole. So you just need to lift it, move your button just that tiny little bit, get that into your hole, put down. That should. There you go. And there's your button sewn on. Okay, you can see how quickly that does. All right, so get your spacing right and all that. They are easy to come off. If you want to take them off again, just get your quick unpick, place it behind the button there, and just pull it off. Okay, there you go, and that will come off as easy as that, and you can just pop it back on wherever you want it to be. So say if you prefer your button to be over here or over here, just wiggle it around until you get it right. Okay, so that's how to sew on a button. So there's my little front of my pajamas. They're looking quite cute now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn it over so you can see this piece. Now this is the opening here on the back. So all we're going to do is we're going to get a piece of cotton and a needle, and we're going to put a knot in the end, and then we're going to bring it back into those last few stitches which were back stitched, so we know that that's not going to unravel. And we're going to pull our knot into there so that our knot doesn't show. And then what we're going to do is going to go into this side of the fabric, pick up just the inside of the fabric, not the outside. Okay, so you just want to do a small stitch in there, and then the next stitch you want to go straight, can you see that, or straight into the fabric on this side, but you don't want it coming out on this back piece. Okay, and you're going to pull that in, and as you can see that's joined that, and you can't see the stitches. All right, so we're going to go along, and we're just going to do that all the way along. So we're going to go into the back piece here, and then forward into this piece on this side, and then you can just turn it to the front and check that you haven't come through at all. Okay, and that will give you a nice hidden seam. You won't be able to see those stitches at all in there. Okay, if you keep it taut, you'll get a nice it'll lay much better. Okay, so in through there and out through there, and there we go. Go pulling that along, and just keep going until you get to here. Okay, so this is my last stitch. I'm just going to pull it in, And good. Can you see, this happened to me just now, so I thought I'd show you this. Can you see there's a little loop there? What that is my needle wasn't right straight on the end of the fabric, right in the center. All it is, it means that one of these pieces of cotton just needs to be pulled. So I'm just going to grab hold of one. You can pull one and see that one's not moving. And when I pull this one, that disappears completely. So there you go, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie 2 knots, and if you remember we've done this before. We're going to go in, we're going to take our thread, okay, and we're going to, oh no, I not got it right, hang on, sorry. Take our thread, so you've got both a piece on each side, 2 pieces on each side, and give it a little twist, okay, and then bring your needle in through that twist, through that hole at the top, okay, and then pull it down nice and tightly, and you've got a nice knot there. And I like to do 2, so I'm just going to do another one, okay, and get your fingers in between those 2 threads, give it a twist, take your needle, whoops, drop one, take your needle and pull it up in between, and then pull it out, okay. And there you go, you've got your knot. Now what I would do now is to make sure that this knot goes right in behind. Sorry, that's better. There was a little loop, it was just one of those where it wasn't pulled quite tight. So what I'd like to do now is put my thread right inside my garment, okay, and poke it right down so that it stays inside on both sides. Poke it down nice and far into the fabric, and then pull it out. And then pull that quite tightly, all right, like that, on both sides, so you get it nice and tight, and then just give it a little pull and snip that off, okay. And that fabric, that knot, then you won't see the end of the knot poking out the pieces of thread. It'll have gone up in there and it'll stay inside there. So that is your little pajama top all finished. So there we go. If you don't want to sew by hand, what you could do is take your machine and just run a line of stitches all the way around, or you could just go from here and just run a line of stitches very close to the edge just across the back, but I think that looks a little bit neater, so I'm going to go with that. Okay, there you go. It's quite cute. So here I am in my pajamas. I really like them and I'm all ready for Christmas. I hope you like them. Goodbye.